Poetry bomb. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I thought I would try something different from my usual, just recording with video cameras, but to also do a live Facebook stream of lots of poem readings. If you want to know anything about Scars Publications, founded in 1993, it runs 2 literary magazines. I've just been sharing with you poetry from CC&D magazine collection book, and I thought it was about time to share with you poetry from the second magazine that we run that used to be a supplement section of CC&D. The magazine is Down in the Dirt, and the most recent issue collection book is called Foundations. I apologize to my Facebook live streamers that you see everything backwards, like the writings on the books there in the library behind me, or the book cover that says Foundations on this, or my number, which is 312 and not 512 in Austin, or 213 backwards because you don't know how to write. I don't know. So I apologize to you for that. But this photograph in Rome, I thought would be a perfectly cool cover for showing foundations of buildings, which this one so does, with the amazing architecture and history that the town has in it. So I thought that was a worthwhile thing to share with you. So I was going to share with you poems from different sections of that book, and I do this because my buddy Tom, who runs a monthly poetry open mic, always brings like 8 pairs of reading glasses, and I invariably put them on, but I can't put them all the way up because I can't see through them. And so my husband had a pair, and I'm like, I should do this in homage to Tom, the world poet, the awesome transplant who's originally from Australia. I hope everyone in Austin is doing well because I haven't been able to see anyone. And I hope everyone in Chicago is doing well, the founders of the Poetry Bomb. We can't get together, so the idea is to hashtag everything. Hashtag Poetry Bomb. I've even created a Facebook event page for it if anybody wants to put up any posts on that. Any of the Facebook live streams will go there, and videos will go there later, and it is public and open if anybody wants to post anything up. Just remember, whatever you do, poetically inclined compatriots, is to hashtag Poetry Bomb. And then you'll be able to find more and more like Mad and Mad for today. So I was going to start by reading a section of, because there's a lot of poems I want to share, I'll do it in a couple of live streams for you. A section of poems that are from this Down in the Dirt issue collection book, Foundations. And I'll even show off my cover. Foundations. Ta-da! Foundations. Up close. Backwards. Sorry, live streamers on Facebook. I apologize, I can't control that. But from the Aurora section of this book, from Down in the Dirt, Foundations, I'm going to share with you a few poems. This first one is called Genesis 44. Yes, there are Bible poems in this one. What? I think I'm going to share a couple of them with you from this. This is Genesis 44. I was kind to your lot on the surface, but after your evil led 10 men to try to destroy me, I knew you deserved a slave's life, if not death. So I hid my valuables in one good man's bag. When you left, my steward caught up to you to catch your heinous thievery. I did not want this good man to die for this, and you, the man who once plotted my demise, begged for the good man's survival, that you would die in his place. And I thought, maybe this one wretched man finally understands his sins. I know you didn't expect that. A Genesis. I'll give you another Genesis poem. I'm going to blow your mind. This is Genesis 23, and it perfectly fits in the back of a piece of prose in the story. There's just a little space. I'm like, well, I'll put in something little and blow people's minds with the Genesis poem. This is Genesis 23. I was heartbroken about how my loved ones suffered. This was my family, And after they finally passed away, I could only give them space, a place to rest, and finally be at peace. Yeah, you heard me. Poetic inclinations of Genesis. But I think I'm going to stop with doing the Genesis references and maybe do some things that are different past events in the year. Like some February ones. I got a few, I think, for Lincoln's birthday. This one is called Lawyering Can Lead to Leading the Country. Let's link U.S. agriculture to lawyers, to the U.S. presidency. Now, back in the early 1800s, all farming was done by hand, but Cyrus McCormick saw his father's work on the horse-drawn reaper that you could speed crop collection eventually 100-fold. When his father died, he moved to Chicago in 1847, when he and his brother, through companies, were able to, quote-unquote, mass-produce reapers for farmers. Now, although others claimed patents at the same time, that was when Cyrus McCormick saw John Henry Manny of Rockford, Illinois, was also making a reaper. The Manny reaper even beat Cyrus McCormick's version during the Paris Exposition of 1865, and was forcing McCormick to file a lawsuit against Manny for patent infringement. The trial was set in Chicago and had prominent lawyers on both sides, but Manny's lawyers team needed a local, so they hired an Illinois lawyer, Abraham Lincoln. They hired him for the group. They were sure he didn't have the right kind of experience. Manny's lawyer, Edwin M. Stanton, even said Lincoln was a damned log-armed ape. So although Lincoln was there, he didn't contribute much of anything at all. And when the trial was moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, the lawyers just went there and didn't even tell Lincoln. So when Lincoln heard of this move, he thought, wait a minute, I should be there. So off he went and found this trial. But all of the lawyers just ignored him. So all this time, Lincoln watched the trial that he didn't even contribute to, the trial that Manny actually eventually won, and Lincoln thought, hey, I should really surge with this lawyer thing. And after a few years, he, well, you know, became the President of the United States. That lawyer Stanton ripped on Lincoln back in the day, but after Lincoln became the president, he actually chose Stanton as his Secretary of War. Because back in the day, people didn't automatically choose cronies just like them to serve their own selfish interests to join them, but they actually would often choose people that were different from them so they could have a well-rounded view on how to serve this country. Novel idea, isn't it, to make the effort to work with the opposite side so that the government actually works. Oh, God, it's crazy. There are so many Lincoln pieces, so I'm going to share this one with you. It is called, I think I'm going to do two more for you. This one is called Underscore the Battles. Dateline, November 1860. Abraham Lincoln is elected the 16th President of the United States of America. Among Democrats, Lincoln won over other Democrats, including Stephen Douglas, who first fought Lincoln in the Lincoln-Douglas debates, which was, guess what, all about slavery, which, of course, Lincoln was against. But over the course of Lincoln's run as president, you might be vaguely aware that he was assassinated. But what you might not know is that the attempts on his life started before he even became the President of the United States. Because the southern states, the ones that wanted to secede, weren't fond of Lincoln, and Lincoln knew this, so he thought it might be smart to go on a whistle-stop train tour to Washington, D.C., but fearing his safety early on, he hired Albert Pinkerton as his private security, and his security team found out that a lot of people want Lincoln dead. So, over this security team, they went to Baltimore, one of the stops in Lincoln's whistle stop tour, and they stayed at a Barnum hotel, and they tried to act Southern to infiltrate Southerners there. And that was when they heard of Cyprian Ferrandini, a local, a beady-eyed Corsican barber who planned to kill Lincoln. So, as Lincoln is taking the train in this tour, the stop in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and Pinkerton told them that they have to speed their trip and skip a stop so that they can escape this plan of the assassination in Maryland. So, what do? They remove that hat that Lincoln is so well known for. They wrap him up in a shawl and claim that he's their invalid brother and needs to get on the train. This way, they thought they'd pass Baltimore before noon the next day, or before the scheduled assassination attempt. But in the middle of the night, while in Baltimore, the train stops. Why did the train stop? They wondered, and they found out that Baltimore has a sound ordinance, so that trains couldn't run for hours. Lincoln was a sitting duck in this train whose engineers aren't even allowed to run at this hour. So they did the only thing they could think. They got a horse and literally hooked the train car up to the horses, and they snuck out of town. They were as quiet as a mouse, or quiet as horses, which is more quiet than a locomotive train. And yeah, they get through Baltimore and they stop at Baltimore's Camden Street station to join the train to Washington, D.C., which was nowhere to be found. They were supposed to get there, and at this point, all they could hear was just people all around them talking about how terrible Lincoln was and how the South will rise, and Pinkerton is stunned that Lincoln is sitting here, hiding near people that want him killed. But thank goodness, the Washington train eventually showed up, and at 6 a.m., February 23rd, Abraham Lincoln arrives in Washington, D.C., averting the first assassination attempt on his life. I have no idea. Somebody's asking me if there's a live feed. I see that Victor, hi. I'm being interrupted by my husband. Yes, it is live. And Brownman, hi. So it's running live. My husband wants to watch it. I'm like, sorry. But he actually avoided his first assassination attempt on his life. This was a perfect underscore for the battles Abraham Lincoln had to endure as he shouldered a country's burden, the burdens of, for the first, declaring some humans being anything but human beings. We may look now and find it impossible to believe that humans were bought and sold, tortured in a hot box for days. We hear the speech of having a dream for unity, and on some levels it may still be a dream. But after blacks have run companies in the U.S. and run the presidency, we all must now think that there's nothing any of us can't do. So this fear founded from servitude and slavery is no longer a part of our vocabulary. But when it was the norm, imagine the uphill battle one man had to face to try to convince an entire nation that their property isn't property at all, but it's actually living, breathing human beings. What an uphill battle, and how he paid for his beliefs. I can't believe I'm giving you lessons on Abraham Lincoln here. Hi, welcome to the Poetry Bomb. I hope everyone out there is hashtagging Poetry Bomb like mad for this. I'm giving you one more, holy cow, one more Lincoln story for you, and this one's a funny one, in a manner of speaking. This is called Joining the Grave Robbing Crew. My grandmother's birthday is February 12th. And when I was a toddler, the family would take her out to dinner for her birthday, and we would all sing happy birthday to her, and instead of singing Grandma, ingenious me would belt out Abraham Lincoln instead. I know Lincoln's not from Illinois, but Illinois was where he's known. I mean, I even kept one of my own two of my custom Land of Lincoln emblazoned Illinois vanity plates. And Lincoln is known for being doing so many amazing things through his presidency until he died, including attempts on his life. But I also love stories about how people even tried to steal Lincoln's corpse. Because back in 1875, Big Jim Kennelly had a really great counterfeiting ring in Chicago, but he had a guy named Boyd, and he made the best money. Problems came when the Fed finally caught them, and Boyd took all of the heat. So Kennelly's thinking, wait a minute, now I'm not making money hand over fist anymore. I gotta get a plan to make some more dough. And he got this idea, he got this wonderful, awful idea. And so he met with some of his goons at a bar he owned, the Hub. And that's when he laid out this plan, that these two guys would kidnap Abraham Lincoln's real corpse. They'd steal his corpse and then hold it for ransom for Boyd's release from prison. And the goons, Mullen and Hughes, thought that this was a great idea, and they had to then find that actually somebody was listening in to their conversation. You see, this guy, Louis Squeagles, he overheard them and he asked if he could help them out too. And the goons thought that he looked like a legit guy, so they asked Squeagles to join their crew, not realizing that Squeagles was actually an informant for the new U.S. agency, the Secret Service, which had only been around for 10 years at this point. And the legislation creating this agency was actually on Abraham Lincoln's desk the night he was assassinated. And really, protecting dead presidents sounds like a job for them. So Squeagles brings this Patrick Tyrrell agreeing to catch these two men red-handed. And really, what a way to cement the Secret Service as a true institution in the United States of America. So, that night, Squeagles joined the two goons to go to Lincoln's grave, but they're shocked that it's not a grave they're digging up. Lincoln's in a mausoleum, a sarcophagus, and then a coffin. This must be how rich people, or at least presidents, are buried, they think. But then Mullins takes out his axe and thinks, well, a job's a job. And he was about to start bashing everything around to get to Lincoln's body. So Squeagles had to stop them, and he goes, hey, we have to be careful. We don't want to hurt Lincoln's body, and the noise will alert the graveyard owners, giving us less time to escape. So the goons listened to this guy that they thought was legit, and they opted to break into the mausoleum and then try to just lift the whole thing up, which, of course, they couldn't do. So the sarcophagus was way too heavy. So now these goons are trying to figure out what to do. So Squeagles says, let me go outside and have a smoke break to think of this through. And after he leaves, he signals the Secret Service, who sneaks up. However, one of the Secret Service guys, George Hay, all stoked but all nervous, accidentally fires a firearm. The goons, Mullins and Hughes, hear the gunshot and they think that they've got to make a run for it, even as more men are firing in the dark. And what's really hysterical is that the goons get away because it takes so long for the Secret Service to get to the grave. The Secret Service thought they really screwed this one big time. But the thing is, Mullins and Hughes had no idea who was shooting at them. So they just went back to the Hub, that bar, which is where the Secret Service found them and arrested them. Now, I'm really sad that in all my years in Chicago, I never tried to hunt down the Hub, though I think the bar is long closed. And so what if I butted in with Lincoln on my grandma's birthday? Because with these Lincoln stories, it's still cool to remember. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hope you like that section of reading. I'm going to continue reading, but I just don't want to do a live feed that incredibly long. This was from the Now Down in the Dirt issue collection book that's just been released about a week ago. It's called Foundations. If you'd like to know anything about Down in the Dirt magazine, you can go to scars.tv online/dirt, and you can find issues and you can find all sorts of stuff if you'd like to consider submitting stuff to the magazines. And I hope everyone is hashtag poetry bombing like mad this afternoon, and I will see you with another live feed in just a few minutes. Thank you.